Okay, ladies and gentlemen, please stand now for the arrival of the official party and the playing of ruffles and flourishes, and remain standing for the national anthem, followed by the invocation by Chaplain Blanchette.
I invite you to pray with me. Transcendent God, we are grateful for today we gather to celebrate the promotion of Colonel Stephen Purdy with our commanders, with his friends and family, and with his wife Wendy and his daughters Taylor and Holly. This is a joyous occasion indeed. For even the entire Purdy family are a people who serve and a people who love doing it, which is a great reminder that Colonel Purdy's success is not without his family serving right beside him. I thank you for them, Lord, and I salute them too. And their service is not without context, for it comes from a heart that has been touched by you. For you have put it in Colonel Purdy's heart to serve, not out of selfish ambition, but in humility, to esteem others above himself. And that conviction and belief is evident throughout Colonel Purdy's career. For one is only commissioned when they place their nation above themselves. One is only promoted when they place the mission above themselves. And one only takes command when they place the men and women they lead above themselves, always above themselves. It's no wonder the Space Force motto is Semper Supra, always above. This is a reminder that the greatest leaders put others first as they serve. No doubt this is what Colonel Purdy has done and will continue to do, and the fruit of that labor is respect. Bless him, Lord, with your strength, your wisdom, and hold him up by your grace as he leads. Continue to watch over him from above. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain Blanchette, for those inspiring words. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. We are definitely fortunate to have a number of distinguished and special guests with us here today. I ask you to hold your applause until each group has been recognized, and I'll cue by starting the applause. First, of course, is Colonel Purdy's wife, Wendy, and daughters, Taylor and Holly. Colonel Purdy's father, mentor, and inspiration, Colonel Stephen Purdy, Sr., United States Air Force retired. His in-laws, Mr. Kelton and Carolyn Taylor. His sister and niece, Christy and Danielle Kowach. His brother and sister-in-law, Kelton, Donna, Taylor, and their son, Dylan. His close friend, Mrs. Casey Blanchette and Chaplain Blanchette. Also close friends, John Day, Dave Barnhart, Major Jennifer Luce, U.S. Air Force retired, and yours truly. We would also like to extend a warm welcome to United States Air Force retired Lieutenant General Wally Moorhead, Deputy Commander of the United States Space Force Major General Stephen Whiting, the Army National Guard Advisor to the Commander, United States Space Command Major General Tim Lawson, the Director of Joint Space Operations Forces Development for the United States Space Command Major General William Holt, the Director of Operations and Communications for the Headquarters United States Space Force Major General Deanna Burt, Chief of Staff, Headquarters United States Space Force, Brigadier General Kristen Goodwin, the Director of Logistics, Engineering, and Force Protection at the Headquarters United States Space Force, Mr. John Bonaparte, the Deputy Director, Financial Management and Comptroller, Headquarters United States Space Force, Colonel Brian Keel, the Deputy Director of Plans and Programs, Headquarters United States Space Force, Mr. Xavier Chavez, the Chief Enlisted Manager, Plans, Programs, and Financial Management at the Headquarters United States Space Force, Chief Master Sergeant Keelan Rasmussen, the CEO of the O'Neill Group Company, Mr. Kevin O'Neill, the Vice President of Lockheed Martin Corporation, Mr. Scott Gustafson. And of course, a warm welcome to all the other senior leaders, team members, friends, and family who are able to join us today here in the hangar or online. It's now my great honor to introduce the commander of the Space and Missile Systems Center, Lieutenant General J.T. Thompson.
Thanks, Rick. Well, good morning. Okay, point of order. For 3.5 years, I've been stationed in Los Angeles, and I have done nothing but taunt all of you who live here in Colorado. I love sending pictures to Bill LaCorey on a text in the middle of January of me under palm trees while you guys are dealing with 6 or 8 or 10 inches of snow. I've completely adopted the SoCal lifestyle in terms of weather. And it's really fun to abuse my friends here in Colorado and in Dayton, Ohio, and elsewhere around this great nation about the weather. Today, though, I can't do it. The weather here is absolutely awesome. And, I'll just, Chaplain Blanchette, that was a great prayer. Casey, way to take care of him. But I don't know if you had anything to do with this weather, but good job, right? Very, very nice. In any case, that's all good. We find ourselves in sort of an interesting time, right? We're doing this socially distanced in a hangar during a global pandemic. And so some odd kind of things happen, right? Odd things like, if you're one of the 3 people that did not get introduced at the beginning of the ceremony, please raise your hands. We're sorry, right? There'll be special refreshments for you later because of the reduced attendance of these things, almost everybody gets introduced. So if you didn't get introduced, on behalf of Rick, my apologies, right? Also, interesting times in terms of the stand-up of the U.S. Space Force. How about we give that a hand, huh? But there is a disturbance in that force, and it would be really appropriate for me to acknowledge it today. The disturbance is this. There's going to be, in very short order, another 4-star in the Pentagon. Great guy, brother of mine. Have known him my entire career. No one better on this planet. 3 new 3-stars in the Pentagon, eventually. This bothers General Whiting and I greatly. 3 3-stars in the Pentagon means we're outnumbered in the field. And so for the Space Operations Command, the Space Systems Command, and the STARCOM, I'm worried. I'm worried about the directions that we're going to be getting. I'm concerned. I'm not concerned about our response to that direction. I'm pretty sure General Whiting and I, and whoever the STARCOM commander is going to be, we'll be able to hold our own against those Pentagon bureaucrats, if you know what I mean. And in case you're thinking, I wonder if General Thompson wants to make sure that DT and Salty and Nina and Bill hear what he's saying, please repeat it to them often. Or send them the video. Are we videotaping this? In any case, I want to make sure that they know that Whiting and Thompson, we're looking at them. Okay, for those of you who have never seen me do this, there are some really, really important aspects of it. First of all, I am from Pittsburgh, and I'm pretty snarky at these things because of it. It's just one of those things for people who grew up in Western Pennsylvania. Yes, we will honor Colonel Purdy, but we're going to make fun of him in the process. I am also concerned about some things that I saw in his record that I will talk about here in a few moments. So, unfortunately, Steve, I'm sorry, but I don't think that I can promote him to 1 star without at least a vote of confidence from the audience in attendance. So there will be a vote here at the end after I highlight some good things, but also some things that give me great pause about General Select Purdy. And by the way, Wendy and girls, it has nothing to do with his family, especially the girls, Wendy. There may be a few things in here that we need to talk about her as well. Okay, so let's start off with Steve Purdy. 25 years in uniform, 8 PCSs throughout that time, 7 more PCSs for a total of 15 when he was a dependent following his father around, the other Colonel Purdy, around his career in the Air Force. Based on my count, 13 to 15 different jobs, depending on whether you count student assignments as jobs and things like that. Distinguished graduate twice from ROTC and from Squadron's Officer School. 2 beautiful and talented daughters that we'll talk a little bit more about later. And 1 superstar spouse. Maybe. The record clearly is meant to lead me to the conclusion that she is a superstar spouse. But I found some stuff that maybe we might have to vote on that as well. I don't know. We'll get to that. Kind of unique in terms of PCSs, some fantastic jobs. Steve Purdy, engineer. Steve Purdy, executive officer. Steve Purdy, Air Force intern. Very selective program. Out of the 20-some thousand captains in the Air Force that were considered the year that Steve was selected, 50 were picked. So I guess you can say in the top 50 captains in the Air Force that year for Air Force intern program. Let's see, worked in some counter-air programs, so a nice little broadening away from the space domain in terms of acquisition. Lots of congressional stuff, including some very unique things that we'll talk about as we go on here. Material leader in the acquisition community is a squadron commander, very successful tour there. Senior material leader at both the group and wing commander level, did a fantastic job in both of those. And now, Director of Plans, Programs, and Financial Management. Wah, wah, wah. Staff, bureaucrat. Ugh. Did you learn nothing in all of these other jobs? I get it. You probably didn't have much of a choice. So, all right, I got it. Interestingly, in terms of his PCSs, and this, by the way, is not unusual for people who have spent most of their career in space acquisition. So, first PCS from ROTC at Baylor University to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio to work at Air Force Research Lab. But from that point on, from Wright-Pat to D.C., from D.C. to California, from California back to D.C., from D.C. back to California, from California back to D.C., then back to California, and now finally to Colorado. So I think the family really loves that. I mean, that was one of the first things that Wendy told me when I met her 3.5 years ago. If we have an assignment after this, don't send me back to D.C. I'm like, well, first of all, I don't even know you. Who are you? She had a boot on her leg. You'd had some kind of surgery or something like that. I'm Stephen Purdy's wife. That's awesome. That's a change of command, right? Who's Stephen Purdy, right? So, but what I've found over the years is for those who've been in the space acquisition business for a long time, shuttling back and forth between California and D.C. is, well, it's kind of a birthright, whether you want it or not. Before that, though, and I mentioned that he had followed the other Colonel Purdy around his Air Force career. He was born in Ohio, born at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, dependent assignments to Maryland, Texas, Alabama, Los Angeles, California, Santa Maria, California, Maryland, another assignment back to Maryland before he headed off to college to Baylor University. When I have a little survey that I give to people I'm promoting or retiring or for changes of leadership and things like that. When I asked hometown, in an epically sad sort of way, Steve just wrote, "No hometown." He claims Texas as his home state. Wendy's from Texas, and many of his family members live there currently. And of course, he and Wendy, we'll talk more about this later, met at Baylor University in Waco, where Steve was busily getting his bachelor's and then master's degree in computer engineering before he was commissioned. Let's see, junior high in Santa Maria, California. High school, Lackey High School in Charles County, Maryland. He had a job in high school, like many of us. I guess I should ask for a raise of hands. How many people here worked at McDonald's? Oh, not as many as I thought, but still quite a few. All right, got it. His hobby as a kid was, quote, "I was interested in space." That's it? That's your only hobby? You were interested in space? Dad worked as the NASA liaison to the shuttle program, which the elder Colonel Purdy and I have already talked about, and also helped build the shuttle launch site at Vandenberg. His hobbies as a kid included playing soccer, and he also did Boy Scouts when he was younger. Eagle Scout?
Never an Eagle Scout.
Ah, okay. I knew there was something I liked about you. I never could make it to Eagle Scout either, and I secretly resent all those people who did, right? Well, I wish I'd have followed through, but I didn't, and it sounds like you're the same way. Gotcha. Okay. He was commissioned out of his ROTC program at the end of 1993, but like a lot of us, did not come on active duty till considerable time after that, and it was September of 95. Steve did an education delay to stay on and get his master's degree at Baylor in computer engineering, as I previously said. I asked Steve why he chose the Air Force, chose a life of service, and his quote is, Dad said when I was in high school, "You need to serve your country and you should be a computer engineer. That's where the work will be after 1993. So, Colonel Purdy, I have 3 kids. Could you talk to them? Because I have been talking to them along those lines for the longest time, and they just go, like my oldest, she's out of college now, but her response was, "Dad, I don't want to wear a costume to work every day." Honey, it's a uniform, not a costume, right? So, in any case, way to go. Good job, Elder Colonel Purdy. Steve applied and received a full Air Force scholarship in computer engineering. His parents were Texas residents, so the rule was, okay, you might have got a scholarship, but you're going to school in state in Texas. So he visited the 3 schools in Texas that offered Air Force ROTC and computer engineering, which I assume are Texas A&M, Texas, and Baylor.
It wasn't A&M, it was TCU.
TCU? Okay, all right. But you decided on Baylor. Okay, all right. Okay, so a good computer engineering program, but at least in the time you were there, a really bad football program. Yeah, gotcha. Understood. So, in addition to the bachelor's degree and the master's degree that Steve earned at Baylor, like a lot of our senior Air Force officers, multiple master's degrees beyond that. George Washington University, when he was in the Air Force intern program, got a master's degree in business and organizational management. And then at National War College, when he attended there for senior developmental education, He also got a master's degree in national security strategy. I know that there are some people, and there's a lot of people in the audience who are very familiar with that concept of the military, but maybe a lot of the family aren't aware of how educated our senior officer corps is. So let me just say, if you are an officer in the United States Air Force and you have a master's degree, raise your hand. If you are an officer in the United States Air Force and you have 2 master's degrees, raise your hand. If you're an officer in the United States Air Force and you have 3 master's degrees, raise your hand. Okay. There's probably a couple PhDs out there too. Yeah. Anybody have 4 master's degrees? Nice. General Burt wins. And, well, I shouldn't say that. Anybody with more than 4 master's degrees? Okay. So your tax dollars at work, right? So, but that's good. That's good from an education and training perspective. We are from the bottom up. From our junior enlisted corps all the way through our general officer corps, we are a well-educated service, and that doesn't even count our Department of the Air Force civilians who are in very much the same way. Okay, so I always ask a promotee what the highlights of their career were and what their proudest moments are, and this is where I start getting concerns about Colonel Purdy. For the first time ever, somebody who has been in command, who has led large organizations, who has delivered significant warfighting capability, this is the first ever answer I got when I asked for the highlights of your career. I got to travel around the world. I was a congressional liaison. I visited India's Taj Mahal, China's Great Wall, Jerusalem's Wailing Wall and the Old City, London, Belgium, Gander International Airport, and recently Tokyo and Western Australia. Steve, if that's a highlight of your career, then, I mean, you could have been a flight attendant, right? I mean, what the hell? Yeah, well, I guess, I mean, I just like, it just boggles my mind. And then Gander International Airport? There's the spot. Where's that? That's in Nova Scotia, right?
Newfoundland, yes, sir.
Newfoundland, okay. All right. The plane broke down and you just had such a great time. Actually, I had the privilege early last year of going to Japan, Australia, and Kwajalein with Colonel Purdy. And let's just say when you try to fly to Kwajalein from the west, in other words, we didn't come straight from Hawaii, we came from Japan. They basically island hop you across the entire Marshall Islands. On every time we stopped, we had the choice of getting off the plane or not getting off the plane. Steve always got off the plane. So after Steve got off the plane, 4 stops, right, to get from Guam to Kwajalein. He got back on. We didn't sit next to each other on the plane, but after we arrived in Kwajalein, I'm like, what did you do at every one of those stops as we went? Oh, I just wandered around the airport. I mean, these airports are like smaller than those 5 trucks over there, right? So I don't know exactly what he did. Maybe he'll tell us later when he gets up and talks. But I just thought it was interesting that highlights were just travel. Now, what are his proudest moments? Also, pretty good here. Helping people reach their goals as a material leader and a senior material leader. Those goals can be professional and personal, in and out of the Air Force. Helping people get promoted, get them into school or specific jobs. Helping them even to transition to civilian life when it's time. Helping them to overcome life issues and continue to succeed. All right, that's a pretty good answer. Transitioning new capability to warfighters. I like that. AEHF, Battle Management Command and Control apps, Space Fence, Counter Communication System. Able to drive real change, killing waste, saving time, money, speed, activity, and process. I mean, this is all pretty good stuff. Those are proud moments. But then he goes on to list some specific things that he did. And it's a pretty impressive list of things that he was able to do. When he was in the launch program, one of his jobs was transitioning both the Atlas V and the Delta IV launch vehicles from research and development into operations. When he was a congressional fellow, he helped repair the broken relationship between the congressional delegation, specifically Senator Domenici in New Mexico, and the Air Force. Many of you are familiar with that, the BRAC battles and where F-22 was going to go and when F-117 was going to retire. And so there was some, let's just say, some tough conversations between the New Mexico congressional delegation and the Air Force. Helped to get, when he was a congressional liaison, helped to get through Congress the approval of Air Force Global Strike Command and establishment of 24th Air Force. This is all good. And by the way, it's all reflected in his OPRs that he provided to me. I couldn't really question it. But then we started getting to things that I knew about. And I was greatly concerned, Colonel Purdy, when you claimed that you had killed JMS. JSPOC mission system. But Colonel Purdy, 3 years ago, I distinctly remember you and several other officers in my office begging me to save JMS. Please don't let General Raymond kill it. Please, 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 we need to restructure it. It's a good program. It's General Whiting that screwed it up. Really? So now you're taking credit for killing it. I mean, no one else in this room who knows that situation gives Steve credit for killing JMS, except maybe Steve, right? General Raymond, so just to set the record straight, General Raymond killed JMS. Now, Steve, you might have been able to claim that you helped clean up the mess it's caused by that killing of JMS. And you did that by establishing Space C2 and ESBM C2 and things like that, which you did a pretty good job leading. And so I thought, okay, well, maybe I can give him some, maybe it was just a something accidentally written, like, yeah, I was part of killing JMS versus I killed JMS. But then the very next sentence, I started BMC2, Battle Management Command and Control Program, DevSecOps, and got it named Kobayashi Maru. Dude, I named it Kobayashi Maru. You might have forgot that that was my suggestion and what I kept pushing for. The no-win situation, Kirk recoding, and everybody sitting in the staff meeting going, hey, that's a great idea, boss. And now you're taking credit for it? So this calls into question everything else. I'm like, what else are you taking credit for here that you didn't really do? Do you even know Senator Domenici? Holy cow. This is, I guess, in terms of rewriting history, the next thing Steve's going to say is, well,
Start Space Force.
Yeah, right. I wasn't going to quite go that far. What I was going to say was, I'm in Space Force and we don't have core values yet, so be damned, integrity. I don't know. Keep this in mind, folks. There's going to be some voting at the end, right? This could easily just turn into a random retirement ceremony right here. All right, now let's talk about Wendy, shall we? Superstar spouse. That's what I always thought. Wendy and Steve, as I mentioned before, they met at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. I'm a little bit concerned by this. How did they meet? They met on a Texas highway cleanup crew. Work release? Probation? It goes on to say this was part of our ROTC Honor Society, Arnold Air Society Angel Flight Volunteerism. Sure. Yeah, you killed JMS too, didn't you? The catalyst for our first conversation was when we discovered a dead fish mounted on a board. There were only bones left. Steve, okay, that's just weird, right? So we need more. The audience wants to know more. How did this conversation start? All of us have seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre, right? You know, the beginning scene where there's roadkill and all that good stuff. I mean, what were you guys talking about? You don't want to say, do you?
Well, it was a really nice fish. I mean, why would they throw it away?
It says it was bones only.
Part of the discussion was who mounts a bone fish, or how do you mount a fish without preserving it or whatever.
And you thought that was a good pickup line, Wendy? All right, maybe you two were meant for each other. You're probably meant for each other.
It's a little nerdy.
All right. While they were dating, they visited Steve's family. The Purdys were assigned to Los Angeles. Were you on base at Fort MacArthur?
They were up the hill on 9 Perigee.
Oh, okay. Really? Okay, gotcha. During the visit, it was during Christmas break, Wendy said, and I quote, "Well, this is an interesting place to visit, but I'm not sure I would want to live here." I understand you regret that remark to this day, since you've lived there, 11 years throughout your career. I guess, for the purposes of just maybe saying something positive before I have to dive into some areas that concern me, Wendy, I would say that you might regret you living at Fort MacArthur or in LA for 11 years, but the Fort MacArthur Airman's Attic, the Spouses Club, a number of our religious activities, and all your neighbors on O Road do not regret that you lived at Fort MacArthur. Okay, that was just the nice part. Unfortunately, I'm starting to note a trend in a lack of integrity in this entire family. So there are a couple of comments on my survey that were clearly written by Wendy. We celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary this past December, but since Stephen's boss gave him so much work to do, we were not able to do anything fun or to celebrate. So, Steve, you have a choice here. You can take your wife down with you, or you can save her and sacrifice yourself. As you know, I take meticulous notes at all times, so I went back to my December notes. I didn't give him anything to do, Wendy. I don't know what he told you he was working on that was so hard, but it was not from me. So, Steve, do you have anything to say for yourself? Both Wendy and I are looking at you.
I don't recall the offensive questions.
Yeah. I was too busy killing JMS by standing up Kobayashi Maru, which I named. Wendy goes on to say, while recovering from surgery in the summer of 17, Wendy went out to watch the SMC command ceremony, change of command ceremony from the front porch of their house on Officers Road at Fort MacArthur. The new commander talked for so long that at least 5 people fell out of the formation and had to be treated in the medical tent. Okay, that's a little bit of an exaggeration because I know the number was 2. I was actually shooting for 5, but I only got 2. Okay, all right, on to those beautiful and talented young ladies. Taylor, please stand and wave. Taylor is interested in art, writing, creating stories. Oh, you still have to stand. Playing the piano, she also does computer gaming, and ladies and gentlemen, Taylor. Los Angeles Air Force Base Youth of the Year 2018. Holly, age 15. Back in LA, Holly did spend a lot of time taking care of a certain animal on O Road, a very bad dog that happens to live with me. My wife and I like to play golf. My wife and I like to go out to dinner occasionally, and to have Holly available to babysit our other baby, our other child, Britta, was a godsend. So thanks for doing that. Apparently some of Mrs. Thompson's and my Ruth Ann's golf spirit rubbed off on Holly because she's taken an interest in the game since moving to Peterson Air Force Base. The golf club has awarded her a brand new set of clubs. What brand? Okay, all right. Well, the bug hasn't caught you that bad yet, but but she got those clubs for being one of the promising young golfers over here at the club. Her other interests are animals, doll restorations, and baking. And if all this beautiful and talented doesn't shine through for these two, who I have no integrity issues with at all, I will just also say that they're also famous. They were on the red carpet with Samuel L. Jackson and Brie Larson at the premiere of Captain Marvel. So stand up and wave again, just both of you, right now. Stephen goes on to relay a cute story about the girls. I don't know if I can trust it or not, but I will repeat it. When working as a congressional fellow and then as a legislative liaison, I wore civilian clothes to work for 4 years, beginning when the girls were 3 and 1. When I came downstairs in my uniform after my assignment when they were 7 and 5, Holly remarked, "Dad, you're in the military?" Maybe not for long if you keep lying on these forms. All right, Steve, if you can't tell, as a computer gaming major and a certifiable geek, and I say that with admiration as I am too. Big-time computer gaming enthusiast. His current favorites are Skyrim, Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout, Grand Theft Auto, Left 4 Dead 2, Max Payne, and Half-Life. Okay, if you are an adult in the audience and you've played all those games, raise your hand. Okay, all right, that's actually more than I thought. All right, okay, it's all good. He's also into science fiction and fantasy, Doctor Who, Star Trek, Star Wars, Dungeons and Dragons. You're a D&D guy? Who do you play with?
No, I'm too nerdy to actually play the game socially.
Okay, so we're keeping a good column and a bad column, a yes vote column and a no vote column. No vote column. I'm too nerdy to actually deal with people. Let's see, what is a general officer's primary responsibility? Oh, I don't know, dealing with people? And then he has a new hobby, which I absolutely understand and I alluded to earlier, given how beautiful the weather is today, exploring Colorado and Colorado Springs every weekend. This is a great place to live. One of the things when I did a change of leadership for Steve Purdy and Phil Garant several years ago, and the special programs director at SMC, is one of the things we talked about was purdycool.com, which was the family website. You know, we post YouTube videos, we blog there and all this other stuff. But as I understand it, purdycool.com is now defunct. The girls have lost interest in it. I see. So what is it now? What, you have your own social media platform, girls? Anything? Well, maybe you don't want to admit in front of your parents. I get it. Talk to me later. All right, but one other thing that I think is really cool about the state of California and their homeschool rules, obviously Wendy and Steve homeschooled the girls there at Fort MacArthur, but you had to actually apply for a school name, and so the girls are well, graduates. One's a graduate, right? The other is, how much longer you got there? Okay, so Holly's got a couple more years. Got it. Okay, so Purdy Prep School is licensed in the state of California. The head mistress is Wendy, and the principal is Steve. And those are like actual duty titles, right? Do you call each other that at home? Just business card. You have a business card, Wendy. You have a business card that says head mistress, Purdy. Wow, that's awesome. That is really cool, but also kind of geeky. Yeah. All right. Okay, I got it. All right. So I asked Steve what his goals going forward were: balance work and home, and enjoy both. Great words. Put the girls on the best path possible. I don't know, especially if you're going to that Purdy prep school in Colorado after it got relocated, right? Let's see, keep the cumulative time spent in D.C. and L.A. at 21 years so my wife doesn't abandon me. All right, okay. I may not agree with keeping it the cumulative time, but I do appreciate that you aspirationally don't want your wife to abandon you. I hear you. Let's see, I have another question, another quiz for the audience here. Who in the audience has been to the world's largest Pokemon store? Yeah, he drugged me there. It's at the base of the Sky Tree in Tokyo, and it's actually really, really impressive. We can tell you about it later. Core values: help people and fix things. Leadership and communications. I think most successes and failures can be traced back to two concepts. This is another area where I have some concerns. Failures can be traced back to two concepts, and then the concepts are listed as: it's okay to disagree, okay. Understand each other's facts and points of view, okay. But then the third of the two concepts is be able to argue the other person's side. The fourth of the two concepts is have a rational discussion about what you agree on and what you then move on about. And then the fifth of the two concepts is be calm and put yourself in the other person's life. Did you just download these off the internet and you forgot to edit out a few?
Some editing error.
Okay, all right. He has a bunch of favorite quotes in here. I will not go into all of them, but live long and prosper and be excellent to each other and party on, dudes, are included among them, which I think are actually pretty good. Okay. Final segment. I do want to just highlight, I always like at these sessions to, obviously to prepare, I read everybody's record. I read all their decorations, I read their OPRs, in this case for an officer. I take a look at their rope, any awards and decorations, things like that. I like to do that because I think that all successful people's, all successful military professionals' careers, although they're very different. You know, you may grow up in the operations world, you may grow up in the acquisition world, you might be a contracting officer, an engineer, a program manager, you might be a space operator, you might be a civil engineer, whatever, you might be a pilot. All successful people's careers have some common threads to them. And I just think it's interesting that, you know, when you were a kid, everybody here had to take home their report card to mom and dad, right? But when you got to college, or maybe shortly after college, because mom and dad were paying for at least part of college, you stopped sending home your appraisal, your OPR, your OER, your, at that time, your enlisted performance review, your EPR. You stopped sending them home, right? Mom and dad didn't get to see those. Colonel Purdy, have you ever seen any of Steve's OPRs? Okay, all right. Well, from promotion ceremonies and things like that?
You might help me write them.
Ah, nice. Ah, so. Gotcha. Anyway, I think this is interesting. I'm going to go back through Colonel Purdy's, some of his OPRs here, and just talk to you about some of the things that were said about Steve. Aced the second year of his wing commander equivalent SML job, complete rockstar package, number 1 of 5 wing commander SMLs, wing commander equivalent SMLs, number 1 of 54 center 06s, and that was signed by me. Now I'm going in reverse order here, right? So number 2 of 51 colonels, also signed by me. My number 2 of 8 rockstar system program directors, signed by me. Number one of four 06s, number 1 of 9 division chiefs, number 5 of 19 06 SML division equivalents, Sam Greaves. I thought this was interesting. I've never seen this on a National War College training report. Number 1 of 208 top paper award for all seminars in Global Context Core course, Masterful Strategic Analysis. Number 1 of 13 top student award in one of the core courses, 2 of 4 elective courses taken this year, also top student. Won the prestigious Frank Traeger Faculty and Alumni Writing Award for 2 exceptional papers. Won the Department of Homeland Security Writing Award for superb analysis of the U.S. electrical grid reliability. Placed 5th in the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff 2014 article competition amongst all PME schools. Outstanding leadership across the board. Number 1 of 13 field grade officers, clearly a leader ahead of peers, and number 1 of my three material leaders, Bill Hodgkiss, who many of us know from his long and distinguished career in launch. Still my number one of 25 lieutenant colonels and my number one of 21 Joint Service Field Grade officers, Rich McKinney, who many of us know and respect. Another one from Rich McKinney that says basically the same thing. I like this one. Number one acquisition guy I've worked with in 26 years, has my total confidence, top 1%. Steve is the driving force for Air Force success on Capitol Hill. Larry O. Spencer, at that time a Major General, but many of us know him as retired 4-star Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force. Number one of 27 high visibility SPO leadership positions, Frank Fikes, the legendary budget director in SAF FM. I have never seen anyone get a stratification or any kind of statement like this from a U.S. Senator, from Senator Domenici in New Mexico. As a 34-year U.S. Senator, Steve is easily in the top 1% of all officers, all services I've worked with. Exceptional officer, leads with integrity, force, and energy, fantastic performer, inspires confidence and respect, motivated, highlighted air staff, AMD organizational issues, developed and drove options, gets results every single day. Mark A. Welsh III, at that time a Major General, but many of us know him as Chief of Staff of the United States Air Force. Steve is the best CGO I've seen in 10 years, number one of 37 CGOs. John Innsbrucker, Space and Missile Systems Center. Number one of 35 CGOs, clearly demonstrated vast leadership potential. Sue Mashiko, who many of us know. Top 1% of O3s I've known, Gold Star performer in SAF AQ's Space and Nuclear Deterrence Directorate, dedicated to health and fitness, passed 2 belt levels in a self-defense class. I had to read that. That's just so cool. What were you doing, kickboxing or mixed martial arts or?
South Korean special.
Nice, nice. Works out regularly at the gym. Ha! This obviously back when you were a captain, right? Shining example of the Air Force's future leadership, Major General Brian Arnold. At SOS, as I mentioned earlier, he was also a DG, but he was also, and for those of you who are junior officers, when you get to be as old as me, and General Whiting's pretty young, but he's going to be a 3-star pretty soon. When you get to be our age, you actually begin to respect the Outstanding Contributor Award at Squadron Officer School, which is voted on amongst your peers, more so than you do the Distinguished Graduate part of SOS. And Steve was the Outstanding Contributor in his flight at SOS. Also a chorus member, contributed time and talent to foster esprit de corps, created a positive image for SOS. So you sing and you do Korean mixed martial arts, I guess is the best way to say that, and you didn't put that in the. All right. So Stephen, next time you need a national anthem singer, I know your guy, right? My number 2 of 40 CGOs, Terry Neighbor, SES at Air Force Research Lab. And, ladies and gentlemen, to close out, the very first OPR that Second Lieutenant Stephen G. Purdy Jr. ever got in the United States Air Force. I always like looking at the very first OPRs people get because I think it's a window into their career. It's always amazing to me how second lieutenants who start fast, who do remarkable things as second lieutenants, turn out to be senior officers sitting on the stage getting ready to get promoted, right? This is a quote. Wow, my top lieutenant in 5 in the branch, superb leader, innovative manager, consistent top performer, winner of AFMC's Science and Technology Award for network-based simulation technology experiments, consistently exhibits excellent leadership skills, innovative problem solving, superior technical ability, demonstrated outstanding leadership by orchestrating the first joint U.S.-German air combat sim network, convinced Training Systems Product Group to spend $300,000 to build a new combat simulation network, identified and required factory refurbished simulation host computer, saving over $150,000 over new system cost. Developed the first World Wide Web homepage for the branch. Outstanding publicity for our operations. Excellent briefer. Impressed Air Force Vice Chief of Staff with presentation on Air Force networks. Stephen exhibits fantastic potential. So let's unpack that just a little bit. Excellent leadership, innovative problem solving, superior technical ability, spent money on the right things, spent that money as efficiently as possible by saving things, outstanding external communications, an excellent briefer, and a leader. Next line down, this is the reviewer. Very exceptional all-round performer, strong organizational skills, coupled with natural leadership savvy, mature judgment, and endless initiative. Steve has tremendous potential, a future Air Force senior leader. So I have no idea who in the hell Don Gum, GS-15, and David Lemaster, GS-15 are, but I think they nailed it, and they nailed it 25 years before the rest of us nailed it. So Steve, I have to put this to the vote. I'm gonna abstain because I'm concerned and personally hurt by the Kobayashi Maru thing. But let's have like a little thumbs up or thumbs down out here. Everybody think that we should promote this guy? What if he had to be promoted and moved to DC? All right. Okay, so Steve, look, 3.5 years ago, I came to this community as a expert, well, as a good acquisition guy, but a rube in space, right? Didn't know anything about space. And thanks to you and people like you, like Phil Garant and Tim Shaba and Dennis Bythewood and Rob Bon Jovi, the colonels that worked for me at SMC, I got up the learning curve pretty fast, and I have come to respect this community far more than you'll ever know. And coming with that respect of this community is a respect of the leadership that this community has grown over the years. And this guy is at the tippy top of that list of acquisition leaders in the space community who not only deserve to be promoted to 1-star, but will wow us all with what they're going to do as a 1-star, a 2-star, a 3-star, and more. So congratulations, my friend, and I think we should do this thing. What do you think? I mean, I can keep going if you want me to. All right, I figured you would be. All right, let's promote General Purdy.
All right, so two quick things, General Thompson. Coming from SMC's first JMS program manager, I think I speak for many people in this room. I don't care who gets the credit, I'm just glad it's dead. And the other is, as a retired major and Eagle Scout, I think you and Steve did okay not making Eagle Scout.
Life.
Yeah. Please stand, ladies and gentlemen, for the reading of the orders.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. The President of the United States, acting upon the recommendation of the Secretary of the Air Force, has placed special trust and confidence in the patriotism, integrity, and abilities of Colonel Stephen G. Purdy. In view of these special qualities and his demonstrated potential to serve in the higher grade, by Special Order Number Alpha Alpha Golf 087, Colonel Purdy is appointed to the grade of Brigadier General, United States Air Force, effective 6 August 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. And I'd like to invite now Wendy, Taylor, Holly, and Colonel Purdy Sr. to come forward to pin on General Purdy's new rank.
specifically told no blood eagles.
No blood stars. Thank you, ladies. As part of the promotion ceremony, it's a military tradition that the newly promoted officer reaffirms his or her commitment to the Constitution by retaking the oath of office. This oath reminds us all of the serious obligation that American servicemen and women make to the people of our country. The oath of office may be taken before any commissioned officer of any component of any armed force, whether or not on active duty. It is with respect to his leadership, mentorship, and inspiration that General Purdy chooses his father, Colonel Purdy, to administer the oath. Please welcome Colonel Purdy, United States Air Force, retired.
Before I start, I want to make one slight correction to what General Thompson said. When my son was going to go to college, I said, okay, it's going to be Texas, and we're going to go look at the schools. And we went, General Thompson said, we went to several of the schools, and he chose Baylor, but he didn't say why Steve chose Baylor. Do you remember why? Baylor is the only school in the universe that has a live bear on campus that drinks Dr. Pepper. He didn't write that down. He didn't write that down, did he? No, sir. So this is a very special occasion for me, obviously. My son is I'm not wearing a mask because I have issues. I need to breathe. So you have to stay with me. So my son is a third-generation military member. My father was a chaplain in the United States Army, served through the Second World War and Korea War, retired as a lieutenant colonel. I came on active duty, retired as a colonel. I went through Vietnam, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, and a couple of other small things. And now my son has been promoted to general officer, and that's 3 generations. It's not very common to see that anyplace. Now, I have been at all of Steve's promotions. I commissioned him from Baylor University. I read the oath of office to him as a second lieutenant, and all the way up, and today I'm going to read the oath of office to him as a general officer. And a lot of my civilian friends have asked me in the past, what is the oath of office and where did it come from? So I'm going to tell you. You can trace the lineage of the oath of office back to the Roman legion commanders. Now at this point my son is saying, oh no, Dad's going to talk about the Romans again. And I am. Unbelievably enough, back during the Republican era of the Roman Empire, they used to have legion commanders, and they would cycle them in and out of legions just like the Air Force cycles brigadier generals out of jobs. You know, they cycle them in, cycle them out, throw the bum out, get another one, it's going, okay? When the new legion commander got to his base, if you will, they would build a structure that was roughly 20 feet high, and the canoe commander would walk to the top of this structure and take his helmet off and confront somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 legionnaires, because it was important at this point that they understand who the boss was. There's no pictures back then. So he'd take his helmet off and he would rotate through all the cardinal points of the compass, so all the legionnaires knew who their boss was. And then he would take an oath. He reaffirmed his faith to his gods, to the Roman Empire, and to the legion. And that's the subsequent genesis of the oath that we give today. It has come down through the centuries to us in all different forms and fashions, and all different variations. But there's a couple of things that have not changed. The one thing that has not changed is most important. It is the reaffirmation to something that is larger than oneself, i.e., one's country. Now, you ask yourself, what is an affirmation? If you don't know what it is, I found this interesting myself. An affirmation is a statement that is repeated to encourage and uplift the person speaking it. Think about that for a minute. That's to encourage and uplift the person speaking it. And in the military affirmation, there are two significant parts that I want you to pay attention to. The first is that there is an affirmation to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. The second, there is an affirmation to bear true faith and allegiance to the same. Now, make no mistake, those words are there for a purpose. They're to make sure that we as servicemen and women understand why we are doing what we do. Sometimes we lose sight of it. Okay, are you ready, boy? So, I happen to have in my pocket about 7 oaths of office that I've given my son.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
Okay, you ready to do this, boys? You ready to affirm your faith in the United States of America? Raise your right hand. Repeat after me. Say I and state your name.
I, Stephen George Purdy, Jr.,
Having been appointed a Brigadier General of the United States Air Force,
Brigadier General of the United States Air Force,
do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
that I take this obligation freely
and I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully discharge
and I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties of the office upon which I am about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thanks, Colonel. Please be seated. Throughout the history of warfare, a general officer's flag symbolized his command on the battlefield. In recognition of his promotion to Brigadier General, Hawley, Taylor, and Dillon will now unfurl Brigadier General Purdy's personal flag. The United States Air Force authorizes individual flags to those who warrant them by virtue of their office. The United States Air Force has incorporated the use of flags to signify the presence of a general, also known as flag officer. The Air Force one-star flag will be posted at all official military functions hosted by General Purdy and will be visually displayed in his office. It is my distinct honor to introduce, for the first time, Brigadier General Steve Purdy.
Wow. Well, thank you. This has been quite an amazing day in the lead up to it. It's kind of hard for me to grasp intellectually. Many of you know me. I know the day was coming, but you kind of set it aside and you're focusing on work and life and whatnot. It's quite a different when everyone's here looking at you. Luckily, like a good introvert, I wrote a bunch of thoughts down in some quiet time, so I have a few thoughts. But first, let me give my sincere thanks to several different groups. First, to General Thompson, thank you, sir, so much. I stand here today because of you. And I couldn't think of anyone better to host this ceremony. General Thompson, as you can tell, when he promotes you, like, you feel promoted, right? So I knew what was coming, but it's awesome. Thank you so much, sir, for both your friendship, your mentorship, your guidance, and then for coming out here today. Rick and Jen Luce, thank you. Longtime friends. Rick has now done 2 narrations for us, and that's a trend. So really appreciate you all. And then Chaplain Blanchett and Rich and Casey, thank you for coming as well. It was a great invocation prayer. Really appreciate it. All the members on stage flew here today, so truly honoring, especially in these conditions, for them to take time out to do that. So really appreciate it. Multiple organizers for this event. So Captain Tim Applegate is running around continually working, planning. He's back there. Thank you to him and his entire team. Captain Robertson, Patty, Tiny, Lieutenant Kim, Sergeant Liggins, etc. Really appreciate, planning these things is painful. There's thousands of little events and things that go on, and so really appreciate it. And major kudos to Tim and his group for coming up with playing Song of the Dragonborn and others that are opening. So love that. And then at SMC, there's P9, Hannah, Nate, all helped us coordinate with General Thompson. So really appreciate that. There's some longtime friends here that I really want to call out. They were called out earlier. John Day, a roommate of mine from all the way back at Baylor University, flew out here. That's completely honoring that you would do that. So thank you. Jen Luce, of course, also from Baylor. I sort of got a twofer there with Rick, so that was a bonus. Dave Barnhart is here from my first assignment, all the way back in the first assignment, so really he happens to be local, so it was awesome that you were able to make it down. Brian Jenrad, I think, was here. He was supposed to be here. I didn't see them. He may not have made it at the last second, so from my second assignment. And then Morty, Shelley, and Kath from my FML days. They're scattered around the room. So all the way back, folks have come out. That's really humbling and honoring. And multiple new friends, a couple of new friends. Mark Gould, Mandy Vaughn flew out from Los Angeles to come here. So again, really honoring. Scott Gustafson drove down from Denver. And then, of course, General Moorhead and other locals really always appreciate when you can make it down. A bunch of colleagues are watching today, and actually the COVID has allowed us to do some interesting, unique things, and the ability to stream ceremonies is really exciting. So there's a whole host of people at special programs that are watching. I know there's a bunch of S8 folks and S5 and 3 folks that are watching, and we have a bunch of families scattered around the U.S. that are watching as well. So really awesome for that. And then just a couple of virtual nods. I know General Grant is watching, and I'm actually wearing his stars. Huge mentor to me, so thank you to him, and thank you for letting me have his stars that I could wear. General Tav, Bucky, General Merritt, and Dr. Moore, and I know are all watching. I think there's several other ones. So thank you to all of you. When General Raymond asked me to come to Building 1, I was excited, as was alluded to by the general speech here. mostly because it wasn't Washington, D.C. or L.A., I'll just be honest. After 21 years straight, our family longed for something different, and it has been truly awesome. We've gone out every weekend and explored the city, explored the folks. Even during COVID, there's a lot to see and do. But it's also extremely honoring to work in the Building 1, especially as a 6X. It's kind of rare for our community, in the 6X community, the engineers and program managers to work in the building. There's always a few, but there's not a lot. So I really hope that becomes kind of a ground piece of mentoring for like the future, that we can continue to mix up our groups a little bit more. There's been some that have talked about in the new Space Force, breaking those walls down even further. So maybe we don't even have 6Xs and 13s. The Marines do that, right? So everybody is a Marine. And so for us, it's everybody is something. We don't know what we are yet, but we know we're close to being named something. I look forward to that day that we'll be able to rally around and name a concept of what we are. But I think that's cool. So there's always a need for some specialties, but breaking down those barriers, I think, is great. And I think it's going to help us accelerate to this new concept of the Space Force. It was a few years ago, I was at General Hyten's, one of General Hyten's many promotions. I think this was his DC one from 1 to 2-star. And if you've ever been to his promotions, he loves the Air Force, and he just kind of, he gets really emotional about it. It's really deep for him. And I kind of feel like that a little way for the Space Force and for space in general. General Thompson kind of alluded to it, but I've always loved the concept of space, the elements of space, and it's all aspects of it, the sci-fi elements, the cultural pieces, the NASA pieces, and everything. And so that's always been kind of a passion of mine. I will be the first to admit, I do not have the deep orbital dynamics knowledge or operational knowledge of, say, like a General Brig, or the deep acquisition knowledge, say, of General Thompson or General Grant. I've always seen myself in kind of that middle ground. I see myself as an engine to drive innovation and change and new concepts that drive efficiencies and goodness to both of the worlds. That's kind of where I see myself, and it's just exciting to be able to do that for the new service. General Raymond was actually up here on the stage Monday with General Burt doing her promotion. Congrats again, ma'am. And both of them talked about how much work there is to do for the Space Force, and completely echo from my perspective. But I also have a slightly different perspective because I look kind of left to operations, and I look at the yawning field of new technology coming down the pike. There's new technology, there's space venture capital going into literally astronomic regions, if you pardon the pun. There's DevSecOps, there's all sorts of new terms. There's Platform One, Agile Thinking, Agile Organizational Design, Innovation, there's Kobayashi Maru, there's Space Camp, there's Combat Development Teams and Divisions. There's even nascent ideas like Nellis in space, trying to build out a testing range in space. Distributed network ops, 1,000 other concepts and ideas, and it kind of makes your head swim. To me, that's super exciting. There's just a great world that's coming down the pike. Well, there's also kind of a warning there. That's a looming tsunami, literally, of tech and new capabilities that's going to start flowing. The structures are being put in place. These new software development techniques, the accelerated development of those kinds of things is going to create a problem if we don't work together and create a system that allows all that stuff to flow in. The real question is can we ride that tidal wave and take advantage of all that capability, or do we get overwhelmed by the wave? So, if we're able to ride it, if we're able to work together, and it's a whole of organizational approach. It's the industry folks, it's the contractors, it's the government, the military, civilians, right? So it's all of us, acquirers, technologists, operators working together to sort of keep us up on that wave and take advantage of all that tech. It's a great future. I really look forward to it, and it's just so much fun. I would be remiss if I stand here today and don't mention that it's not of my own accord that I stand here. It's the result of a long series of decisions by leaders. Each took their time with me, pushed me, prodded me, poked me, pulled me at different times. I can look back on my career and point to so many times when a senior leader just gave me a little nudge in a certain direction, in a certain way. behavior, do this, think about that, expand your mind and whatnot. So it's a core element of me. I realize that, and so it's one of the reasons why I spend so much time, even on our own orgs, with people to try to help them out, because I've been a huge beneficiary of that, and I think it's a huge lesson for all of us. But the other aspect, if I'm honest, when I reflect on my career, I'm the product of a lot of luck and timing as well. And so I think it's an important lesson, for myself. It resonates deep within me, to be honest. And so as a result, I really look to take the opportunity that's been given to me. General Burt mentioned the same on her ceremony on Monday. And to General Raymond, General Thompson, and General Whiting, my pledge is the same as hers. I will double down, work hard, and try to build this Space Force up, really, and just seize this opportunity that's been given to me. So exciting. Finally, I stand here today with my family. Quite a number of them are actually, the extended family are actually here. All of them flew in, or drove in, actually. Some of them drove in, straight shot from Texas. So really, it's an awesome that they're here. Kelton and Carolyn, known to us as Papa and Granny, and then Bo, Donna, and Dylan are all here. All of them, they're the extended family, they're Wendy's side of the family, have always welcomed me with open arms, and truly blessed that you all are here and that you all came today, so thank you. Christy and Danielle, sitting right next to them, both are tremendously busy in their own jobs and their own lives, but deeply appreciate you all flying down here to spend a few days with us and be part of the ceremony. It really means a lot. My dad, it means a lot for you to be here today. You've been here at every single one of these. In fact, you were here at our original commissioning. John Day is sitting right behind you. John Day and I were commissioned together in December, and Dad was there for that. You've always been sort of that guiding beacon for my career and a model to achieve. And it's one reason why so much of your stuff is in my office. And so when you go into my office, you'll see a lot of stuff, and a lot of it is his. It was an early lesson in my life as I started my career. My dad was still active duty, and thankfully he was wonderfully received by many folks. And so I was always getting people come up to me, confused by my name, and because I didn't look anything like him at that point, because he was a little older and I was much younger, more handsome, obviously. So, but they would always come up to me and talk about what a great mentor he was, what a great leader he was, how much time he spent focusing on both the mission and the people. And I got that repeatedly, and week after week, and assignment after assignment. And it's humbling. It's also goal setting to try to be like him. But that's what I mean by just a huge guiding beacon. It's hard to just put it into words, but a great career, a great leader, a great officer. Some here have actually worked with Dad and can know it. Scott being one of them. So, finally, this brings me to with my last three, this brings me to Holly, our youngest. Her growth in height only matched by steps in maturity. So. I loved watching you grow and mature. I love watching you grow into your own interests. She's got really interesting interests, and takes a little bit after me in some areas. Rock collecting. She's a big rock collector right now. Guitar. A bunch of anime that I don't understand what's going on, but you seem to like it, so knock yourself out. Swinging on the playground. She's a huge swinging on the playground type. She started that at Fort Mac, and she's continued here to this day. Archery. She likes archery, and also golf. She's really picked up the golf. So, love you. Look forward to seeing what impact you have on the world. And Wendy, words. I had to write all these carefully. Words for this introvert are hard. I'm not, and so once I flip over the emotional switch, is not good. When we were married, and when you're married, typically, the pastor typically says two become one. And when you're young, you don't understand what that means, I don't think. And after 25 years, start to glimpse, you start to get it. She is truly my rock, my life companion, my partner in life, and someone who totally gets the meaning when I say we are as one. Now I left off our eldest Taylor. She is our artist. She is our night owl, our tea-loving gamer, who takes my hand-built gaming. She took my hand-built gaming machine with some of the best graphics in the world, and she plays Minecraft on it. Woof, woof. But honestly, it's pretty awesome because Taylor and Holly both build worlds in Minecraft, and then they go explore each other's worlds, which is really cool from a creative aspect piece. Love you dearly as well. And like Holly, I look forward to your impact on the world. But I left you as last for a particular reason. I'm going to take a little bit of a personal privilege today. As we fled, or PCS'd from Los Angeles, we realized Taylor had graduated from high school. And I say realized because we've homeschooled all of them throughout their entire life. Wendy, and she is the headmistress of Purdy Prep School. I fed all this to the boss earlier, an actual title. She pulled together Taylor's transcript and realized that we actually had enough credits under California law to graduate her. So we did. But COVID and our move prevented us from actually recognizing her. And so, as president of Purdy Prep School, I would ask Taylor and Wendy to come on stage so we can give her diploma. Okay, and with that, I am finished. A final incredible thanks to all who are in this room, really deeply. I'm really humbled, and I thank you, especially for coming out in COVID in this environment. It means so much. And a final thank you to all that are online, that are watching. Thank you to all of you for your mentorship, your help, your guidance over the years. It means more than you can understand. So thank you to all of you. Appreciate you all, and have a great Space Force Day.
On behalf of the men and women of the Headquarters United States Space Force, thank you all for joining us in celebrating the promotion of Brigadier General Purdy. We extend our congratulations to you and your family. Once the official party departs, a receiving line will form to the right of the hangar. Please remember face coverings and your 6-foot social distancing. Now please remain standing for the departure of the official party. Thank you all and have a wonderful Space Force Day.